Hello, I'm Ann Hubbard, APDA's Chief Public Policy Officer. Thanks so much for joining us today. As the APDA Chief Public Policy Officer, it's my job to advocate for effective policies that improve the lives of people living with Parkinson's disease. You might be asking yourself, well, what does that mean? Well, it involves engaging with and educating elected officials and others about Parkinson's disease, its impact on patients who live with Parkinson's disease, their families, as well as others in their community. This allows us collectively to increase research funding, protect and improve access to care, as well as address the root causes of Parkinson's disease. Joining me today on the webcast are a congressional Parkinson's disease champion, Congressman Gus Bilirakis, noted authors and Parkinson's disease experts, Dr. Ray Dorsey and Dr. Michael Okun. Before we start the webcast, I want to take a minute to thank you all for joining us live. We really appreciate you being here. The program will be recorded, so you can certainly access it later on the APDA YouTube channel. In fact, we encourage you to subscribe to the APDA YouTube channel so that we can send you information about future programming and learn a little bit about what you're interested in that will inform future programming planning. So for now, please drop in the chat your name and where you're dialing in from. Good morning, Crystal. Got someone in from Florida? Tom, hello from Cleveland, Ohio. Fantastic. Welcome, everyone. We really appreciate you participating. And we also encourage you to not only engage with me, but also with one another, as well as our esteemed guest on the program today. Again, make sure while you're here to join us to subscribe to the APDA YouTube channel. And let's go ahead and get started. I'd like to welcome our esteemed guest. Gentlemen, welcome.
Thank you. It's been an honor to be here.
Thanks for having us.
Well, I really appreciate you all making the time. You know, Parkinson's disease seems to be having a moment these days, and I think that the three of you, along with an internationally recognized time traveler, have a lot to do with that. What are your thoughts?
Ray, why don't you start?
Well, first of all, delighted to be with you, and Michael and I are honored to be with a longtime champion for the Parkinson's community. There are very, very, very few people, if any, in Congress who've been as dedicated to preventing, treating, and ending Parkinson's disease as Congressman Gus Bilirakis. He wrote the introduction to the forward to our book with Congresswoman Jennifer Wexton, and he has been doing this for 10, 20 plus years. He's tasted Parkinson's disease personally in his family, and he, like us, don't want anyone else to taste it again. And we don't need a moment to change the course of Parkinson's disease. We need an ongoing campaign, and that campaign needs to be as broad and as deep as possible. It can't just be people with Parkinson's disease, although there's 1.2 million with it. It can't just be their caregivers, their friends and family members. It has to be all of us who are affected by brain diseases, which are now the world's leading source of disability. And the root causes of these diseases, chemicals like paraquat, trichloroethylene, perfluoroethylene, like outdoor air pollution, are affecting all of us. If we clean our air, if we clean our food, if we clean our water, we create a world without these diseases, or where these diseases are increasingly rare instead of increasingly common.
Yeah, no doubt. And I'll just add on to that and just say, you know, it is a movement, and Congressman Bilirakis has been at the center of that movement and pushing us forward. And it's time. Like, it's time for Parkinson to have its moment, and it's time for us to act. And there's no greater time to act now. We're the fastest growing neurodegenerative disease, and that's not the number one spot we want. And like, so, you know, we've been out and you know, visiting all over America, and talking to people and listening to them and their stories. Your stories matter. It's time for us to amplify our voices. What do you think, Gus?
Agree, and I will tell you, it's been great working with the two of you, the experts. I've been placed in a position, blessed, to be on the healthcare subcommittee under Energy and Commerce by my wonderful constituents who have given me the opportunity to serve in the United States Congress. As a matter of fact, we have two from Lecanto. I represent Lecanto, Florida. But yeah, we have to do it as a team, no silos. And that's what this bill is all about. So again, I'm committed. Unfortunately, I've had several family members that were diagnosed with Parkinson's, and a couple have passed away due to the symptoms of Parkinson's disease. I'm not the expert, but my heart's there, and I will never stop until we find a cure. So I appreciate it very much. Thanks for having us on here, and I would recommend that everyone on the program please subscribe to this website so you can get some notifications, and we're well on our way because
we are
wonderful
Thank
experts.
Thank you, Congressman. Passage of the National Plan to End Parkinson's Act last year was a huge accomplishment. Can you talk a little bit, Congressman, about the impetus behind that bill and just kind of how it drove a lot of bipartisan support? Sure.
I will tell you that, it was one of the bipartisan bills out of Congress. And we worked really hard to get it done. The impetus, of course, my family members, but also my constituents. We would meet with groups, therapy groups on a regular basis. And I didn't stop, and I had a lot of help on the other side of the aisle as well. So it was a bipartisan effort. Jennifer Wexton, who has a aggressive form of Parkinson's disease, as well as Paul Tomko, did an outstanding job on the Democrat side, and I had help on my side. Anna Eshoo pushed very, very hard for this bill. So it was a victory success, and we really did set the example of working together, getting co-sponsorships, the community working together, again, not in silos, to get this very important bill passed.
And Dr. Dorsey, you talk a little bit in your book about the importance of advocacy, and just can you provide some of the tips that you incorporate in the book around advocacy that's so important as part of continuing this, really the momentum that's building around Parkinson's disease?
Yeah, so I would just start by saying that everybody's voice matters and your story matters, okay? And we've always got to start there with the people. And as the congressman said, these stories, these people, these coalitions are really important. We wrote a book called Ending Parkinson's Disease in 2020, another book called The Parkinson Plan. We talked about, with the Ending Parkinson, it's prevent, advocate, care, and treat. That A is so important. And how did we get to the A? Well, we researched HIV, we looked at the AIDS community, we looked at cancers, we looked at polio, and we said, look, we don't want to reinvent the wheel here. We want to look at how other diseases and other disease states have become successful. As we moved on to the plan, now we need to put this into action, okay? And when we think about the action of the plan, the A is the amplification of those voices. And so now we have 12 million people with Parkinson now, today. We're supposed to have 12 million by the alarming growth in 2035. We already have 12 million in 2025. And so it's not just the voices of the folks with Parkinson. It's not just each of your stories. It's all the people around. Parkinson is a community disease. You cannot go into any community, any family, and see, like the level of connectivity is just incredible, the number of people that are affected by this. And getting active means that your voice matters. And so getting involved in organizations like today, we're with Ann, who's with the American Parkinson Disease Association, which is such an important advocacy effort here. And it's so important that we sign up for these organizations, PD Avengers, the PDAvengers.com. That was a group of just folks who they read the book and they started their own grassroots organization saying we need to change these things. And they just announced they've hit over 10,000 members. And I always give them a hard time. Ray knows that they're missing a zero on the end of that. 10,000 is nice, guys, and ladies, but we need 100,000. We need 1 million behind. So Ray, what are your thoughts? What are your tips?
And then the people who will change the course of the disease are those who are most directly affected by it. The people who have changed the course of the disease are those who are most directly affected by it, whether that's Congressman Gus Bilirakis, whether it's Congressman Jennifer Wexton, whether it's many of you. And so one easy way to do that is to join the APDA Avengers, pdavengers.com. It takes 30 seconds to do so. It's free. You can join if you have the disease. If you don't have the disease, your niece, your nephew, your neighbor can all join. But when people find their voice, whether it's with polio, whether it's with Mothers Against Drunk Driving, whether it's with activists like ACT UP, then we can see drive change. It won't happen because of neurologists. It'll happen because people most directly affected by the disease stand up and say, we're not making, the status quo is not working. We need to, Parkinson's should not be the world's fastest growing brain disease. 250 people should not be diagnosed with the disease today. 100 Americans should not die from the disease today. We need a new path. And Michael and I have outlined a new path motivated by the great work of Congressman Gus Bilirakis and Jennifer Wexton.
That's right. So, ultimately, enactment of the National Plan to End Parkinson's Act, as well as the publication of the book, really highlight that we're at such a critical point right now in the push to really seek a cure for Parkinson's disease. And, really that means investing in the research and the technologies necessary to address the proliferation of the disease and really kind of put a stop to it. Most would argue that it takes longer to pass a bill in Congress than it does to write a book. But Congressman Bilirakis, you were able to get this piece of legislation passed. And I know that a lot of people are concerned about, engaging in advocacy because of how polarized things have become on Capitol Hill right now. But I'm sure you have some tips and some thoughts about those areas where there is a lot of bipartisan interest in addressing, the need for additional research funding and other, key areas where there is a meeting of the minds around advancing policies. Can you talk a little bit about that? I think you're on mute.
And there are a lot of, I am on mute? Okay, I'm sorry.
You're on now. You're good.
I'm on now? Okay. The personal stories are very important. Going to your member of Congress in the district offices, coming up to Washington, D.C., and educating the members of Congress on these particular issues. Because it is a polarizing time, unfortunately, this is refreshing. So a lot of members want opportunities to work on bipartisan legislation. I call it nonpartisan legislation. So the way you get things done is to have a Republican sponsor and a Democrat sponsor as the primary sponsors. And then they go out and get as many co-sponsorships as possible. But again, I can't really emphasize enough the personal stories. There are a lot of members that probably would have said, well, we don't want to spend the money, but they've experienced it through their family members having Parkinson's, and they see how important it is in putting the plan on the map because we modeled it after the Alzheimer's legislation. So, really, the reason we're up here, and maybe I'm speaking for myself, and I'm in my district office now, hopefully we'll pass a budget or a CR, continuing resolution. The Senate maybe at the end of the week, possibly, and then we'll go back up on the weekend and pass it in the House so we can open up the government. But the reason I run for office is to do things like this and work with the private sector and get things done. So it was a real victory, but we have much more work to get done. And I couldn't do it without these two wonderful people virtually sitting beside me as part of the panel.
And Congressman, we can't do it without you. You've been an amazing advocate and, a congressional champion for Parkinson's. And, one of the things I did want to ask you about is the act includes the establishment of a national Parkinson's Project Advisory Council within the National Institutes of Health. And we understand that the appointments to that council were submitted earlier this year. And with the shutdown, things are probably on hold for a bit. But just wanted to ask, are you hearing anything about when that council might be seated? And can you share some intel on that?
I think we're making a lot of progress. Let me tell you that.
Great.
They wanted to, the administration wanted to make the federal appointments first. So now it's time. We need advocates. We need experts in the field, and then also Parkinson's patients. Again, it has to be a coordinated effort. So we are making a lot of progress there. As a matter of fact, the first phone call that I will make once the government opens up is to one of the people that is responsible for overseeing this committee so we can get these appointments as soon as possible.
Fantastic. No, thank you for making that phone call. We know that you've had your thumb on the pulse of the seating that council from day one. So certainly keep us posted.
It definitely is a priority for me. That's for sure.
Wonderful. We, really recognize that, the seating of the council is not, of course, the end of this, but really rather just the beginning. And to your point, it'll be the beginning of really thinking about the future of addressing Parkinson's disease in the United States. And part of that, of course, involves additional advocacy work that will need to be done to inform the work of the council and engage with council as far as they continue to work through their activities associated with the National Parkinson's Plan. And I know that, Drs. Dorsey and Okun, in your book, you do talk a lot about, advocacy as far as sharing stories. And how do you think that stories will inform some of the work of the council as far as, continued advocacy is concerned?
The book is written from through stories, and it opens with two incredible women, Dr. Sarah Winningham and Jana Reed. Both were athletes, both served in the U.S., went to the U.S. Air Force Academy, both became physicians, both served their country around the world, including in Afghanistan. Both became mothers, and both were diagnosed with Parkinson's disease in their 40s within 1 month of one another. We cannot, on the eve of Veterans Day, say to veterans that the price for serving your country is unnecessary exposure to toxic chemicals that have been around for 100 years. We need to ban trichloroethylene and perchloroethylene degreasing and dry cleaning chemicals that contaminate scores of military bases and thousands of sites, including in Congressman Bilirakis' district, including Congresswoman Jennifer Wexton's district. If we clean up these, if we stop producing these chemicals, if we implement the ban that put in place in 2024 and mitigate exposure to people, we create a world where these diseases are less common. And we not only do that for Parkinson's disease, we get rid of cancer. Trichloroethylene is known to cause cancer. So if we take action to prevent veterans and civilians from being exposed to these toxic chemicals, we create a world where Parkinson's disease is increasingly rare.
Yeah, and I'll just add that there is nothing, and I think the congressman said it, better than I could say it, but you want to talk to people, tell them your story. I just think that you tell your members of Congress your story because it's real. And I think we've made a huge mistake in how we've approached this in the past, in that we really haven't focused on the people. We focus on the, all of these things. And it really does come down to the people, as the congressman, really brought to our attention. And so the idea of storytelling, both in our book and in the advocacy efforts, is important. And Ray and I both always say, this isn't a book that we wrote. These aren't books. These are movements. We're contributing to a movement. Like we really will do anything that we can to create the impact that we need to create. And there's nothing more powerful than your story. Your story matters. And we tell that to every single person we meet on the road. What is your story? And your story matters. I mean, that's it right there.
And one just note,
that is so true.
Stories of caregivers matter, and stories of children matter. I had the pleasure to participate in Policy on the Hill. The most articulate spokesperson for Parkinson's disease was a 17-year-old daughter of someone with Parkinson's.
Dr. Dorsey, I'm glad you brought that up, actually, turning to some of the questions that are coming in. We did get a number of questions sent in advance of the program. We also have some live questions as well. But one of the top questions on here is, what is the role of a caregiver? And can a caregiver really help tell the story of Parkinson's? And to your point, Dr. Dorsey, those caregiver stories can be very compelling. I had the opportunity during the Parkinson's Policy Forum to participate with the Maryland delegation, and one of our members was a wife and caregiver to a gentleman who had advanced Parkinson's disease, and her story was so compelling. We were very lucky with our delegation. We had 3 people who were living with Parkinson's as well as a caregiver, and those caregiver stories can be so compelling because they really talk about it from the point of not only that caregiving role, but also the role around how it impacts their day-to-day living, how it impacts their continuing to do other things in their lives, such as hold a job, care for children, care for parents. So I think Mary sent that question in, and we really appreciate you sending that in, Mary. We've got a couple of other questions here, too, that I think are just fantastic to kick us off. How can support groups play a role in this endeavor to advocate for better public policies? Any thoughts from the group here?
Congressman should speak about caregivers and support groups. My guess is he knows a lot more about them than we do.
Yeah.
Well, the caregivers, yeah, absolutely. And I consult with my brother's wife. My brother passed away a couple of years ago from the effects of Parkinson's, and it was very difficult for her. And the family, the children, they got together and they had a plan to help him as much as they possibly could. He was a physician, a wonderful person. So yeah, the caregivers sometimes can be even more effective than the patients themselves. And a lot of the patients have a lot of pride. It's so very important, these groups, to share the stories with each other, because they can help each other in caregiving for their loved one, but also for their members of Congress. You talked about the environmental effects, the burn pits for our veterans. I just left a veterans event honoring 250 veterans, and I told them that I was on my way to this podcast, and I had veterans come up to me, even caregivers as well. My husband has Parkinson's. He was exposed to these toxic wastes overseas, and they wanted to get on the program right away, so we gave them the information. So it's so important that public awareness is very, very important. But I know that Mike might want to add something, or Ray as well.
Yeah, so I would say that we talk about the caregiver, care partner. We talk about reimagining the care, and we're thinking about how in Parkinson we can't forget about the 12 million people. So thank you, Congressman, for mentioning the story with your brother and your other relatives too. And it's so important that you're public and courageous to tell people about that. And it turns out that we talk about this as sort of a Parkinson universe model, that the caregiver, care partner is Mercury, and Mercury is the closest planet to the sun. So the person with the disease is the sun, of course. And then, but being the care partner can get a little hot being next to the sun, right? So that's Mercury. And Mercury is the communicator, right? And they got to communicate to all those other planets and provide that interdisciplinary care. And it turns out that we know from data and that the folks that do the best in Parkinson have the best caregiver support. They stay out of the emergency room. They have better outcomes. They have better lives. And so we don't invest enough in our caregivers, our care partners. We don't invest enough in our social services to support them along the way. And so as we construct a plan, I want people that are listening to realize that this plan isn't just about prevention. It's about prevention learning why the disease starts, why it progresses, why it goes forward, taking care of the 12 million people who have Parkinson, and just owning up to the truth that it's shocking, maybe to some people, but our system is not working well for folks with chronic diseases like Parkinson, and we just need to rethink that model. Our caregivers and care partners are going to be critical in that model, and then the navigation to new treatments, as the Congressman said, we've got to be thinking through how we're apportioning our dollars and how we're amplifying our voices.
Thank you. We do have a question here about how can I effectively engage with my local officials to help APDA elevate the profile of Parkinson's disease. I know that some of the work that we are doing at APDA is around engaging with elected officials in the communities, really, encouraging folks to invite elected officials to your Rock City boxing classes, your support group meetings, as well as to any kind of chapter events that you might have. These are opportunities for you to engage with your elected officials, talk to them about what it's like to live with Parkinson's disease, and to really kind of encourage that support at both the elected official level, at the state level, but also at the congressional level too. Congressman Bilirakis, I'm sure you have some thoughts about engaging with the community in your district.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do want to tell you that there are organizations that get federal funding to help out the elderly, because the respite care is so very important as well for the caregivers to take a break. Make sure that you do take a break, because I know it's exhausting. And I know how much you love your loved one, but you got to take care of yourself too. Make sure you meet with your member of Congress. If the member of Congress may not be available at that particular time, they should make themselves available. But in any case, they may not be in town, what have you. Be best friends with the staff, okay? And make sure that the staffer knows how much you care about this particular issue. So, I know they have a lot going on, there's no question, but make sure you're persistent and getting to the staff, whether it's in Washington, D.C. or locally. Call the congressional offices. Call my office and see if there could be some assistance, whether it's financial or bringing in somebody to give the caregiver a break. There could be some assistance from your local governments as well. So again, spread the word. Spread the word is so very important.
Exactly. And we at APDA are here to help. If you are interested in engaging with your member of Congress or an elected official at the state level, we're more than happy to make that outreach and tell them about programming that might be coming up in your community that may be of interest to them. And I'm sure that they'll be interested in engaging. So we're happy to kind of serve as that conduit between you and your elected officials. So let's see, I think we have about 2 minutes left for a couple of additional questions. I've got a few here that were sent in advance. Will there be another public policy forum in Washington, D.C.? I am happy to announce that we will be having another Parkinson's policy forum March the 15th through the 18th. APDA will be sponsoring this in collaboration with our friends at the Michael J. Fox Foundation, as well as at the Parkinson's Foundation. We're really excited about that. So that's coming up in March. Hopefully the cherry blossoms will be thinking about blooming. So that's one of the announcements we have, and we can share with you in today's program. And then another question about status of the federal research funding. Has NIH has experienced significant cuts. That is a concern. However, we believe that once the shutdown is over, there will be consideration for appropriate NIH funding for Parkinson's disease research for fiscal year 2026. Our goal is to increase that to $600 million by fiscal year 2028. And so that's certainly a policy priority that we will continue to advocate for and have additional conversations with members of Congress about once the shutdown is over. Let's see. A comment from Lori. She had her support group write letters and send them to representatives. real letters that show the micrographia. Wow, that's an excellent idea, Lori. Thank you for that. That's smart advocacy. And then a question from Susan, would like to see the bill. You know, we can certainly post a copy of the National Plan to End Parkinson's Act on our website, as well as someone else had asked for a link to the book. We can certainly provide that information as well. All right, I think we are nearing the end of our program. I want to thank you, gentlemen, for joining us this afternoon. It's been a pleasure to talk with you all. And I hope those of you who joined us live for the program have learned a little bit of good information about why it's so important to advocate for yourselves. And hopefully we will hear you and your voices either in your state house or here on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. Again, this has been recorded, so you should be able to access it on APDA's YouTube channel. From here into perpetuity. Please make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel because we will certainly be posting more programming in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Leslie Chambers, the President and CEO of the American Parkinson Disease Association. Each month across the country, APDA is providing support groups, exercise classes, and educational programs like this one to support the Parkinson's disease community. You can find all of our upcoming virtual events on our website at apdaparkinson.org/events. If you enjoyed today's broadcast, I hope you will consider making a donation to help keep programs like this possible. Your gift can help APDA support people living with PD through local programs, reliable resources, and groundbreaking research designed to find treatments and ultimately the cure for Parkinson's disease. Please donate today at apdaparkinson.org/donate. And thank you so much for your support.